Most polling numbers show a close race between the Liberals and Conservatives. The Liberals are still in the lead at 43%, 4 points ahead of the Conservatives, who have just under 39%, the NDP at 8%. And moving on to the preferred Prime Minister front, Mark Carney is holding a 13-point lead with 48.5% support. Pierre Poilievre is in second place at just over 35%, and Jagmeet Singh is in third with 4.5%. And let's bring in our CTV News political commentator, Scott Reid. Scott, thanks as always for joining us.
Morning, Roger.
Let's talk first, those numbers we just pulled up there. The gap is now about 4 points, 5 points. Does that surprise you that it's closing again?
Not really. If anything, maybe it looks like it's settled in a pinch. It seems to be frozen at that point. Look, there's really one number that people are looking at right now. When you talk to campaigns, they're looking at the spread in Ontario. And that explains why Pierre Poilievre, excuse me, is in the GTA all day. Because if that number remains 5, 6, 7 points to the advantage of the Liberals, they will win a bushel full of seats in the province of Ontario, particularly in what we call the Golden Horseshoe, the ring around Toronto, going right down to Niagara. If the Conservatives can get it close, they believe that their get out the vote machine, that their motivated voters gives them an advantage, and that a tie in the polls would actually represent an advantage on election night for them. So that's what they're doing. They're putting the focus on Ontario. They're really trying to make the press in the Golden Horseshoe. That's what happens when you get to the very final day of campaigning and the polls look tight.
And what do you make of Carney going across the prairies? They've mostly haven't touched the prairies that much, have they?
Well, actually, he's been to Alberta a number of times, and this will be the second time they've been into Saskatoon. Been to BC multiple times. BC is another big battleground there. Basically, according to the polls, neck and neck. I think Nick has them. Our pal Nick Nanos has them literally tied. I think with like sort of 39 or 40% each. So it's not surprising. This is also a little bit of a tradition among some leaders. I know my boss, Prime Minister Paul Martin, we'd like to do a cross-country swing on the final day of the campaign, leave it all on the table, get to every point you can. But look, the Liberals still believe that they're going to pick up a couple seats in Alberta. They think they can win maybe 2 in Calgary, hoping for a couple or more in Edmonton. They think they have a shot at a seat or 2 in Saskatoon. And they definitely want to get to British Columbia. And with the tragic events occurring there overnight, that's going to put a completely new complexion, not just on the BC leg of this trip, but on the campaign day overall for all the leaders.
And with that, let's go look. I just want to look back for a second, too. Is there anything that has stood out for you on this campaign from each leader that maybe they should have done or shouldn't have done?
Well, I think that there's a couple things to look at. First, I'm not even going to focus on the NDP because I think they're almost in a situation where it's not clear to me that Jagmeet Singh had it available to him to do anything to reverse the sort of structural forces that were happening. Trump obviously dictated the beginning of this campaign. That, in combination with a number of other factors, left the NDP on the sideline. Now, the Conservative and the Liberal leader. The Liberals spring to a big lead on the basis of Trump, tariffs, people's belief that Mark Carney is better to take on this set of issues. And I think one of the things that's interesting to watch is that in the second half of the campaign, there was less Trump, fewer interventions and belligerence from the Oval Office, and we saw that the Conservatives started to mount something of a rally. So I think one of the issues that will haunt the Liberal campaign is, might they have done something more to keep the focus vigorously and resonantly on that set of issues, on the bilateral relationship, on Mark Carney's strengths as leader? So that's issue number one. For the Conservatives, they got off to such a bad step. They seem so out of step. And many times, in many ways, folks observed that even as Pierre Poilievre was criticizing Donald Trump and bringing rough language about his tariff threats, he appeared to exude Trump. That his manner, his campaign, the Trumpy comments to reporters, that he gave off a Trump vibe, if you will. And I think their inability to correct that in the first 10 days really harmed them.
Okay. Scott, thank you as always, sir.
Thanks a lot, Roger. See you soon.
You too. CTV News political commentator Scott Reid.